Okay, so first of all, thank you everyone for being here. Really, really appreciate your time. I've already been introduced, but I will reintroduce myself just once again. Of course, I'm the head of mobile transformation, Southeast Asia, as was highlighted. But another important thing to, note about my role, what really is success for me? Success for me in my role is to make sure our clients are successful on creating high conversion rates on their mobile experiences. That's what kind of is success for me. And with that, actually, let me first pass it to Ian to introduce himself, and then we can proceed with the presentation. So Ian, do you mind just introducing yourself again?
Okay, it continue to not be on mute. So hi everyone, I'm Ian. I'm based in Singapore and I work as a web ecosystem consultant. So my main role is to help our big partners and developer who use Google technologies to learn what's latest. Google sees the whole web world because Google want to build a better web ecosystem. So that's my role and responsibility to share the knowledge and to help everyone adopt it. Yeah.
So fantastic. Thank you so much. So our session today, I'll be covering, the little bit of the business aspect of things, and then Ian will cover technology. So with that, let's just move it to the next slide. So first of all, I hope you all are staying safe and staying well. Page speed is one of the critical puzzles of overall user experience. And in this session, we will talk to you about the correlation between speed and your business and how you can optimize speed for a better user experience. So that's going to be our topic for today. With that, if we can move to the next slide. Let's start with a simple example. This is a simplified user journey. A person sees an ad, taps on it, lands on a mobile site, and then hopefully converts. But in reality, it's much more complex. But what we can actually see from this is there's typically two parts of a customer journey. The first part is before the ad, and the second part is what happens after the ad. Now, businesses typically invest a lot of time and money into the first part. However, not too many are focused on the second part, which is around focusing on optimizing the user journey on their site. Even if organizations do, they do not invest enough resources. So this is a part we need to invest more on going forward. So with that, if we can move on to the next slide. So in a nutshell, to make sure that you make the most of your marketing budgets and achieve your business objectives, you should also focus on after the click and optimize the user experience. So if we move on to the next slide. Today's consumers, how are they? Today's consumers are very, very challenging. They are more curious, more demanding, and more impatient than ever. That is why we need to think about the first impression, how to make a fast and seamless first impression and keep it. To understand this, actually, I'd like to show you all a video, a very simple video, won't take long. Let's just play the video, which is the next slide.
You make no sense. You make no sense.
Hello.
You make no sense. You make no sense. Say you make no sense at all. I said you make no sense at all. You make no sense. You make no. You make no sense. You make no sense.
So what you saw there was example of, the customer I was telling you about. Customers are curious, demanding, and impatient. And another very, very interesting thing about page speed, actually, literally as of now, we have most people working from home. And when I saw this video personally on my side, I saw that basically the speed was not as smooth as it could be, because of network congestion. That's a big challenge which has happened, especially during this COVID time. But so all the more, as a brand, if you are not optimizing your site and not providing a fast speed, the user experience will really, really, kill the, people will start dropping off from your platform. So in this session, we are going to be talking about how we can help by fixing speed. So if we just go on to the next slide. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Before I hand it over to Ian for the technical part, I'd like to show you some data. So improvements on mobile speed can positively affect the brand bottom line. We discussed that. But a recent study from Deloitte Digital found that a site speed improvement of 0.1 seconds leads to an increase in conversion rates and order value. And that's not a typo. It actually is 0.1 milliseconds. So milliseconds make millions. Site speed is a really, really important factor for user experience and business results. Now, if we go on to the next slide. Unfortunately, and I wanted to actually ask a quiz, but this is going to be a presentation from us. But did you know that the average time web pages take to load is 15 seconds? And this is again data based on the Deloitte study. While 0.1 seconds makes a conversion rate higher, the average site takes 15 seconds to load, which is really, really poor user experience. Our best-in-class user experience should be no more than 3 seconds, ideally to maximum of 5 seconds. So next slide, please. Now, the good news is, if a slow site is equal to frustrated users, then the opposite is also true. Fast site is equal to happy users and business. It is proven that improving speed decreases bounce rates across the funnel, not just the landing page, but across every single page of the funnel, because it shows greater user engagement. And the next slide. Improving speed also improves conversion rate, average order value, and page views. And this is great for businesses because this literally correlates into more revenue for the business. So let me wind it up with a case study, which is on the next slide before I hand it over to Ian. So one of the greatest examples in the space of page speed is a marketplace Carousel, and why and how they made their mobile experience 3 times faster. So let me walk you through this case study. Now, Carousel basically originally created their platform for the Singapore market, and they're used to having users with above average smartphones and high-speed internet. However, as they expanded to more countries in the region, such as Indonesia and Philippines, they faced challenges in providing a similarly fast and delightful customer experience. This is because the median device and internet speed in these places tends to be much lower and less reliable than what their site was designed for. Having the page taking 15 seconds to load over 3G connection was unacceptable if they wanted to acquire and retain new users. So they started off with something called performance budgets. There are a lot of technical parts in our presentation today, which Ian will be covering. We can talk about performance budgets there. They started off with performance budgets where they kind of identified the metrics that they want to keep and to meet, both to meet and keep actually. And they implemented several optimizations, such as reducing critical resources, inlining their CSS, lazy loading, image compression, and using service workers to cache network requests. Now, the results of that were phenomenal. They saw a 65% reduction in their page load time and a 63% increase in their organic traffic, as well as 3x increase in their click-through rate. Now, with that, let me pass it over to Ian to talk to you about how you can actually use all of these examples to make a best-in-class site for your own brand.
Okay, cool. So thanks, Bhavna, for the first session of the first part of the session. So this one, okay. So Bhavna has already shared like speed is like important to like everyone, like for every business and also for every user. So as like a very famous quote from Google is like focus on the user and else will follow. So Google is like very focusing on like how user really experience. Like for the web part, it's about like how people can use the search to find the answer, find what they want, and further like once they find the result they want, they click into the website. So they are expected to get the response or get the content from the website, right? So that's what the Google team is like focusing on. So as we can see,
Ian, just
yeah.
to stop you right there, is there any possibility you could reduce some of the static and speak a little bit louder because our viewers are having a bit of trouble hearing you?
So does this sound better now? No.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely,
okay.
absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, all right, thank
So
you.
sorry for that. Yeah. Okay. So as we can see, this is like Google's like official webmaster blog. It has a lot of information about Google's web and search, like new concept, new announcement. So starting from like 2018, like around July, so Google has already announced. So for like your website can be like seen on Google search. There are a lot of factors to like the place its order because it's even different from users by users. Each users will see different result by local, by country, etc. So there are lots of factors, but one thing I can for like every business and for every developer to think of it is your page speed. So page speed is something you can improve by your by content team and by your developer team to improve the overall web loading. So as Google said, page speed is also an important factor for your mobile search. So that's why today we are here. So like business like should focus on speed and Google take care of user and speed. So okay, a little bit slow for loading. Okay, cool. So as we mentioned about user, so let's see how a user really perceive a web page. So normally the web page, like once we click on the search result or we type in the URL in the Chrome URL bar, will like suddenly like the browser will navigate, right, and it will start with a white screen because the browser will start to fetch your like HTML, CSS, the JavaScript to render your website. So when it starts from a white screen, it's like the user will think of, is it happening? So did my click or my navigation success? Is the website server response me the assets I want? And later on, the screen will start to show and draw some of the UIs. So it will become the user start to, is it useful or it's just like some like crappy image or content which I cannot understand. So they will think of, is it something I can find my answer, which is on this website? And further on, when most of the UI is loaded, sometimes there will be some like loading bar or the page will be just like freeze because you cannot scroll it, you cannot click it. So it will turn into the, is it usable phase? Like user will start try to interact with the page to find more content or like call to action to what they want. So this is the third stage of user perceiving your website. In the last stage it is liveful. So a good web page will be more like very static and smoothly. Users scroll and click, it will react as it's behave. Not like when users scroll down, the content will be sudden pushed up, pushed down by some like ads or other like iframe content. So a delightful experience means the page just like work and draw smoothly and know something surprising that user did not expect it. So we can see here actually from we can show slide. We take the government side as an example. Okay. So like now I like simulate my website to 3G, so I reload it. So we can see like widescreen, it is like usable. So So like it's loading, so it's usable, and later the like content start to render. And maybe sometime while the loading is there, I cannot click, but the loading bar is gone, so I can start to clear. So I start to scroll down to find the content I want. So there's no like jumping like message or content on the screen. So it seems quite delightful after it's loaded. So far it's like renders okay. So this is like what's our daily life. We will like try to access a website. So based on this, Google start to build the standard, which is to release in, oops, sorry. So based on that, Google start to build a standard, which is based on how user perceive your website. So it's like some of the bad metric, because we will say like you need to have something like as a standard to measure. You can further based on the measure and the measurements and the benchmark, then you can improve it. So in early May, we announced like something we call Core Web Vital. So the Core Web Vital is like 3 metric under it. So this 3 metric just like match back to what we share about how user perceive your website. It's LCP, large content flow page, FID, first input delay, and COS, cumulative layout shift. And as we mentioned, it's like a standard, so it will have something we call threshold. So in the threshold, we will break 3 metric into good, need improvements, and poor. So, and we have like data sets we can like share, let you know how to measure. We'll share that later. So I will walk through each of the metrics for every of you. So the first metric we call is LCP, largest content flow page. So it means like when your page is rendered, the biggest contents on your website, it is loaded, because user need to not only knows the page is low, they need to make sure they have the content they want on their website. So like for this like newsletter, so the important, or we say the biggest part on this like news is a picture. So when the picture is loaded from initially like navigates, or like you enter URL and to the image is loaded, if it's like less than 2.5 seconds, we will see this websites like large content flow page as a good website. But if it take time more than 4 seconds, then it's a poor website from Google's perspective. So this is the large content flow page. So the next one metric is first input delay. So as we mentioned, like some website, maybe it's loaded, but you cannot interactive, you cannot scroll, cannot click, cannot open the sidebar, etc. So it's like mainly from the technical perspective, it's blocked by the JavaScript, because your browser is like single thread. It can only do one thing at a time. So when it's like parsing and executing the JavaScript, then the user input will be on hold until the previous process is finished. So that's where the first input delays come. It's a delay when user first try to interact with your website, but it like they click it and the website responds it. So the time between it is the first input delay. It's really important to take care of, because if the first input delay is long, as we say, more than 300 milliseconds or 500 milliseconds, then that means like user will be like feel weird, like why the website isn't answering me or respond to what I like expected to do. And the third metric is like called the CLS, cumulative layout shift. So as we mentioned in the last phase of user perceiving your website, UI sometimes may change. So from this like if you there's something obviously sometimes you will see on some website when you try to click, but the other content show pop up unexpectedly. So like move your initial want to interact section like down. So this is like we call it cumulative layout shift. So the way we measure it is we like times the impact fraction to the distance fraction. So this image will show more clearly. So from the impact fraction means that from your whole like viewports, how many percentage of the viewport has been affected. So the red box is like about 75% of your viewport. So that's the impact fraction. And when the cumulative layout, when the like unexpected shift happen, like your whole paragraph is be like moved down to because some ad is pop up here. So that is the distance fraction. So times this two will count your like whole web page like cumulated layout shape, or we call it CLS. So we were also expected this to below under like one, like you already have your whole website layout draws and it is like very statically, no like additional render UI. But if like more than 0.525, then that's not a good experience from Google's perspective. So these are the new metric act just recently launched from Google's side, and further there will be more announcement as Google expected to build a good web ecosystem. So it may further like maybe affect your like search result, etc., or other product which like integrate with your website from Google's perspective. So there are lots also a lot of tools you can use to measure it. So like Lighthouse, the performance tool, like Google like have it in the Chrome and can run it like in the command line, and some like more console tool like Search Console or PageSpeed Insight for non-technical people to test it. And even we have the Chrome Dev tool for developer to see it, and also Chrome User Experience Report. It's like a big data you can just query like your domains and like, and it will has the LCP, CLS, FID already on the data set, which you can draw your own dashboard to operate it. And also on GitHub, we have published this like Webbycode JavaScript library. It's a very lightweight library you can just embed in your website and like and help you like calculate the overall street metric of your website. An additional very useful one is like below the like library, there's also like wrap-up like extension from Google's developer team. So for non-marketing team, you can just install this like Chrome extension. You can just directly see your pages like these three metrics. So as we can see, there are a lot of toolings like onto this Webbycode. So this will be a very important like key player in the further web ecosystem, like what Google want to like collaborate with every partners and developer about their web performance. And so back to the partner or business or developer side. So since speed is important, so we would like to improve it, but it's normally not that easy because we can see normally when we like just finish like implement a page, we will start with something score like Lighthouse on 55, and we need to do further step like optimize your image, compress it, like prioritize the critical assets and do the catching service worker, or like improve your server, like adding a CDN to like fast loading your website content and minify all your asset JavaScript, make it as a bundle. So you need to take a lot of steps to customize your the architecture of your website to reach out to a better performance score. So here is a alternative like solution, or like Google's like, because Google thinks web speed is important. So we developer a framework we can help to improve your website speed in a faster way. So maybe some of you have already heard of this framework. It's AMP. So it's an open source library starting from Google, but it's now under the JS Foundation. So now it's like on GitHub and everyone you can contribute it. So there are some like other players that contribute their source code to AMP. So this framework is like basically built on a fax experience. So we can already see like some of the big business and player using this framework to build out their website. As you can see, those website which has a lightning bolt like page on their result is the website that use AMP to build it. So how does like AMP improve the performance? As it just like the same as what we mentioned here, like these things. So AMP is like build it into their framework from the first day. So just like, so things is like slow or like disclosure ban, like some like big ads or some like really like heavy assets or third-party library, like the whole jQuery. So that is something AMP will like analyze the size of the dependency and decide whether to have it in the framework or whether to load it on the user's website, because we need to take fast as our like initiative. Also, as important for a delightful experience for your like website, but overall view like navigating. So from M framework, the UI won't like just jumping around. It's like all have the static layout to set up in the beginning. Like if you want to import the image, you need to give the width and height from the beginning. Then therefore the browser will know how much space you need to leave for this like image. So the page will be static but not like float reflow and like withdraw on your web page. And like some we have the better ad standard for globally. It's like important for the ad ecosystem. So like distracting ad like the pop-up banner or something that will cover most of your website, it's like forbidden in the AMP framework. And also like we will just in AMP framework, it's already separated the critical and must like loaded executed like assets in the beginning and leave like something in the behind, like the lazy load, like the infinite scroll image, that list item, etc. That won't be load when partner using AMP to build up their website. So for achieving above like concept of having a web perform better, these are some fact, or we say some constraint, like using AMP framework, what you cannot do. Like you cannot write JavaScript like in your AMP framework. And on the other hand, it's actually just a subset of HTML. So it can be rendered on every browser. And the CSS also need to run written inline. So you cannot import external CSS because it will take much more like loading time. And people will wonder, so since we have lots of these like limitations, so how it's really AMP like look like, how we can use this framework to build our website. So under AMP, these are the three main parts of the framework. So it's a AMP HTML, AMP JS, and AMP Catch. So since JavaScript is like unable to return, so AMP framework is actually more like a web component library. So it has a lot of like web component just mapped to your like daily websites, like the sidebar, the list, the image, or carousel, etc. So using AMP means like the UI component already being wrapped. So just simply import the component and use the API onto it. So you didn't need to like customize yourself the JavaScript, which may also cause performance because you may need to achieve some of the function or feature or behavior. Then you have put in a lot of like not redundant code, which is like can like let the performance like become not that good. So that's what AMP framework to help help developer can build. So we further go deep into some of the syntax for everyone to have a more understanding how it look like. So limitation here, as previous like mentioned. So this is a basic like AMP like framework architecture. So it's a basic structure. You have this, then your page can be served, and it is already a website built under AMP framework. So simply just the HTML tag with the lightning bolt, or you just type AMP here, and a link like relevant to like your pages. So this is like how Google can find your page. We'll share about it more later, like just a reference link. And further, the boilerplate like style, which is AMP initially needs. So it's just like copy and paste setup. And the core AMP framework JavaScript library need to import here using async. And in here, you can add the style tag. We mentioned you need to have all your CSS inline. So here, just like adding your like customer CSS, and that's it. So after you have these like HTMLs and HTML, you can further build your UI under the body tag. So for example, to build my web page. So I need a sidebar just look like this. It has a notion. So the simple way is just you just need to like load the AMP sidebar script. So you can find it on the component library website. So loaded the script and directly import the web component, the AMP sidebar component with the corresponding like API, like give it the ID. AMP also has its own layout system you can leverage to your web page, and things you want to show on the right side, you just use a side API to mention it need to be on the right side. And you can also add some of your like HTMLs and CSS, which is like what you want to show inside the sidebar can be added like inside the M sidebar component. And further on, there's a button, and you will use some like events like binding system. Like once I tap on the sidebar toggle is like a state, so the sidebar will be open. So that's it. It's just like very simple using the M framework and just import a library and customize to what you expect it to behave. But and the rest will be take care of the M framework. And overall, it's like very simple, and you can see the code is like very like simple to use, and it's simple to render, and the performance take care. So this is how the magic of M framework everyone can try to build your website. The same here as like often we can see carousel in lots of like travel or like e-commerce websites. So it's the same like same logic. You just import the carousel library and have your M carousel component added onto your HTML, and further do some like customize for its like CSS, for its size, the image you want to load it, etc. Some event binding for let it auto flow or not. So the same as previous one. So we can see here. So there's like partner already like adopted like M website, not only publisher and news. Also, we have a very good example. This is the e-commerce website like from my home country. So you can see by leverage the M component, you can still build like a complex website which has like lots of section. You can scroll it. You can like scroll to top. So you can also do search. It can be like auto complete. So these like UI features all can be done on by the M framework. It's just like different from previously. We need to write every JavaScript by our own. We can like have the already built like web component UI imported and do your customize as you want it. So it's quite doable for website. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So this is like, okay. So it's like the framework like Google Developer, and as it focuses on the web page C. So there's like two strategies, right? You can think of like build up your own website and take care of the optimize by yourself step by step. Or if it's like a very not complicated like or not very much customized like campaign page, then you can further on to leverage the framework and quickly like build and deploy a static website and have the performance benefit earned. Okay. So there's like two ways to set up your M pages for Google to have it. So the first is like perhaps you already have a page you built up previously. We call it canonical page, but the performance is not that good, but it's really hard or have no resource to have the engineer to refactor it. Then you can just leverage the M framework to build up the same UI as the canonical page. And on the link we shared before in the like basic M architecture, you just link the page to each other. And further, the Google search result when user is on their mobile, it will show the M page. But when user is still on the desktop, they will still show the canonical page. So that's a way to have an add-on to have a better performance website using M framework, but doesn't need to affect your original website. This is one way to set up your M page. And
Hi, Ian. Just
hi.
to check with you, do you still have a lot more to cover because it's about 10:22 and we have a few questions for you to answer?
Okay, I'll close in 3 minutes and we'll have 5 minutes
Okay.
for Q&A. Okay, cool.
All right, I'll be back in just a bit then.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So on the other hand, if you want you to start from scratch, then you can have the M page here. So you can just directly link the URL to itself. Then it will be served whenever it's a desktop or mobile. And you can have the AMP validator to check your AMP syntax is like correct or not. And you can also just copy paste this boilerplate to init your project. The URL is here. Yeah, so this is like why AMP is fast. So it has a format. Also, it helps you do the caching and pre-rendering. Okay. And also, like, since it's a framework, so it's like a front-end framework. So lots of like server-side render framework. If you're like care about your website, it's like crawled by Google, then you can use some like the Next.js. They support like AMP. So once you build your component or UI on Next, it will help you render it as a AMP UI. So you can leverage the cache benefits like and the better framework performance by using these framework which already collaborate with AMP. So a quick recap here. So first is Bhavna share about the business part. So why performance, the speed is important, page speed is important to your business because like it affect how user like have the impression to your website, better conversion rates and better like revenue. So it's important. So from Google side, we also really take care of page speed. So we initial the core web vital, the large content pane, LCP, CLS, FID, these three metric for everyone can like have a standard to benchmark, to follow, to have a dashboard to monitor and to improve based on these three metrics. It will further very important from Google's perspective. And we have a solution called AMP. You can use the AMP framework to have the web component web UI to help you build up your like website. So this is something you can leverage if you don't have resource to customize the optimized experience of your website. So yes, that's the mainly parts of like our session. So we can go toward the Q&A. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So our first question is, the most recent Google algorithm update, was it related to mobile? Was it related to mobile speed? Many got hit on the SERP ranking badly.
Let me see. So from our part, so because we're on the website, so we don't have much update like what's really the search like algorithm change, what happened inside. Actually, it's like also like confidential internal in Google because it has lots of update, lots of like factors. So it's hard for our side to share why your website is like having more website from organic search or like have less from that. Yeah.
Okay, our next one is from Elvina Ng. Hi Ian, I'm using Wix. Do I need to know about AMP to enhance the use of Wix?
From my understanding, it's like Wix is some like platform you didn't need to like write your own website. That's what I recall. So I think it's okay to if you use Wix and continue using Wix. Yeah. So the important is like performance, and Wix is like one solution to build a website, AMP is another, and yourself use another framework and also still build on your website. Yeah.
All right, cool. Now Lytics has a question. There are a lot of plugins to improve the speed of WordPress sites. Any recommendations for the plugin or how WordPress sites could improve the speed too?
Okay, so for the AMP framework, it actually have a official plugin which is also developed by Google. You can just turn your website which is hosted on WordPress into the AMP framework. The plugin will help you do that. You still need to do some like configuration if like the original HTML syntax generated from another WordPress plugin is quite different from the AMP format. But from my previous experience, some partners like the recipe, so they're like quite static content, so it's quite easy for the plugin to convert. So that's one of the mainly recommendation. And the other, I think, because like WordPress is very like big ecosystem, so I think it depends on what you want. Like you want image optimization, there's image optimization plugins. You want like other like CSS or JavaScript like optimized plugin. I think they still have some. Yeah.
Okay, so we also have a little bit of a continuation to just now as well. They touched on another question. There are some mobility issues detected on my site by Google Search Console. For example, the texts are too small to read, the clickable elements are too close together, and the content is wider than the screen. Any other tool besides Google we could use to check and detect the mobility issue in real time?
So from my understanding, it's asking about the tool, right? So I think Search Console gives a quite overall like big understand of how Google search understand your website. So these are the other tools from the partner side can be leveraged. So highly recommend Lighthouse to check the performance. And also from the search console, or you can directly type in Google search, there's a mobile friendliness test. You can maybe solve some of your question mentioned in the search console previously. And from developer side, they can see most of the alerts and issue by their Chrome dev tool. The dev tool has a lot of tabs, which some of them can help you like highlight your problem and like lets people to fix it.
Right. Okay, thank you, Ian. Our next question comes from Mahindran. This one's from Bhavna actually. Hi Bhavna, in a website, is it possible to put some promotion videos around 10 to 15 seconds? Are there any speed problems to the website when you open it up using a mobile phone?
Okay, so yeah, actually that's a question for both me and Ian. So in terms of, you're putting a video, that's not a problem. I mean, ultimately showing videos, content is all up to your marketing objectives, right? So the important thing over here is to, include whatever you need from a business perspective, but make sure you optimize it. So I'll let Ian add to this, but there are many formats where you can actually optimize videos to show them to load faster. That is, I think maybe Ian, you can just specify what specific video format is that, where you actually optimize, videos to load faster.
I think you can use the video tag, and it can help you to have multiple like kind of video like loaded. So it will depend on the browser capability and order to load the most smooth and most like efficient video formats into this browser. But you can like initiate it in your HTML tag from when you're trying to implement it.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is also, to make sure that you are presenting the content that you need and just optimizing it using all the techniques that, Ian has shared in the presentation today. So we're not taking away, information that you want to present to users, but just thinking of optimizing it.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. This one comes from one Ismail. Now the question is it true when we use AMP, it changes all the website URL to host on Google?
Okay, so the answer will be yes and no. So no means that after you use the AMP, since it's HTML, it's like still a front-end framework, you can just like deploy it and have your own website. But we didn't cover a lot part is Google will help you catch it. So when user click it from search result, it will have this like catch URL shows on Google like Chrome. But it doesn't mean that Google hijack your traffic. It just like Google help you catch it, but you can still have the GA tracking, the cookie tracking to like maintain on it. So it just like will help you to catch and have like help you build up the CDN, can faster load it, but you can still have control, like update the catch, update the content whenever you want. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, Bhavna and Ian, we're going to have to let you go because this is the end of your session. Thank you so much for joining us at WebFest 2020. It means the world to us. Thank you so much for your input. It's been insightful. You have been a joy to watch. Thank you so much. To all viewers watching, let's give them a virtual round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And feel free to join us for the rest of the day and watch the rest of the speakers present if you like.
Sure, definitely do that. We have some awesome content, so we might join in a few of those. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Thank
you,
everyone
Ian.
for attending. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Exabytes. Grow your business online.